Good morning. We are extremely pleased that you are here. It is good to come together for the purpose of co-creating. Do you agree? Co-creating at its best, yes. You bring your important perspective and we bring ours. And together we take thought beyond that which it has been before. It's a nice thing. And as we bring our perspective, our broader perspective, not our better perspective, our broader perspective, and you bring your specific perspective, not your better perspective, but your specific perspective, as the specifics of that which you are focused upon meshes with the broadness, the basis of law, the totality of who we all are, perspective of us. As these perspectives blend, it just does not get better than that. But we want to say to you that you do not need us here in this format for that to happen. Because at all times, you are an extension of source energy here in your physical bodies, having your leading edge exposure to contrast, coming to your leading edge conclusions. And whenever you do that, whenever you know what you don't want, so you know what you do want, even if you don't speak about it, when that deciphering and that deciding, sometimes you don't know you're deciding, but we promise you, you always are. You cannot have any exposure to any life without coming to conclusions of what would be better. The evolution of all species is based upon that fact. So as you have your exposure to the contrast and a new idea of an improved, from your perspective, your important perspective, rockets out of you, this rocket of desire, the broader non-physical part of you that resides non-physically, who always exists even while you are physically focused, that broader non-physical part of you accepts your request and holds forevermore the vision, the complete vision of the completion of it. And that's why we say to you that when your life causes you to ask, that it is given in that moment. You want to see the world through the eyes of the expanded source. Now hear this, the expanded source who has just newly expanded because of you. That's why you're so hooked into it. That's why it feels so personal. It is personal. You caused source to expand, and when you don't take the expansion, you take it personal. You feel empty. You feel void. Those are too strong of words. You feel disconnected, still too strong. You feel resistant. Better word. You feel resistant to the becoming that life has caused you and us to become. So here's another way of looking at it. You came forth willing and wanting to explore contrast in order to add to the expansion of the universe. We stand in non-physical, eagerly experiencing the expansion that you have carved out and steadily holding focus upon it and living it as a done deal, shining a light on your request and calling you toward it forevermore, knowing that at your time of absence of resistance, you too will reap the benefit of your request, knowing that as masses, you put requests in that sometimes your generation doesn't allow yourself to live, because you're too busy factioning off in liberal or conservative battlefields and pushing against one or the other and using each other and what each other wants as your excuse to deprive yourself of the very thing that your collaboration caused you to ask for. But no worries. Source, all that is, took the expansion. And it is from that vantage point that new generations are born, who will be born with less resistance. And while you'll leave monuments to your resistance all over your planet, you will leave monuments and books and all kinds of information for the new ones to read, and you'll do your best to remind them how awful it really is, so that they will forget their God-given joy that they came forth with. Even though you try very, very, very hard, the natural process of the recycling of experience causes every generation to be less resistant than the last. So you, in your generations, you are setting forth very much in this vibrational escrow. We're going to call this the vortex of creation. You have contributed massively to this vortex that will benefit generations to come. So step 1 is you ask. Step 2 is source answers. Step 3 is you got to find some way somehow to become a vibrational match to what you've been asking for. Otherwise, you don't get what you've been asking for, but that's not the worst part of it. It's not that you just don't get what you want. It's that you don't be who you are. That's the thing that makes you feel negative emotion. You don't feel negative emotion because you're depriving yourself, and you are depriving yourself because nobody else could ever deprive you of anything. But you don't feel negative emotion because you have deprived yourself of the lover you want, or of the car you want, of the resources you want. You are feeling negative emotion because you are depriving yourself of the state of being that you are. You are secure. And when you feel insecure, there's some depriving going on. And it's not us, it's you doing it. When you are angry, you are depriving yourself because who you really are is one who loves. When you do not have enough of something wanted, it is you who is depriving yourself. But what you are wanting is alignment more than the stuff you think you want. Now, we want you to want all that stuff. We want you because you're out here in the leading edge. Someone said yesterday, well, not so sure that this stuff I want is really as spiritual as I want to be. And we say, this stuff out here on the leading edge is the extension of what spirit is. There is nothing that is not spiritual about your materialism because you are the extension of source energy. But there is a physical aspect of you that is out of sync with the spirit that is you. Just as there are physical aspects of you that are in sync with the spirit that is you. So it is not materialism that is tripping you up. It is having asked for that which source has endorsed and become, and then holding yourself in vibrational opposition to it, that makes you begin to write books about the inappropriateness of wanting material things. There isn't anything that you want that is material that you want for any other reason than that you believe you would feel better in the having of it. So this universe is a universe that is based upon attraction. Law of attraction is the manager of all of these vibrational frequencies. There is no exclusion in this universe. So when you see something not wanted and you shout no at it, you're not saying no to it, you're saying yes to it. You're saying, come to me, this thing I do not want, because in your attention to it, you are activating the vibration of it. And when you activate the vibration of what you do not want, you prevent yourself from going to the vibration of what you do want. Can you hear that? There's not a stream of badness or a stream of heinousness. There's not a stream of evil. There's not a stream of darkness. You don't walk into a room and look for a dark switch. Flip the switch and inky, misty darkness comes down and covers up the light. There's not any of that. You can resist this light, and you can resist well-being, and you can resist wellness, and you can resist goodness, and you can resist clarity, and you can resist abundance. You can resist all things wanted, but you are the one resisting it by giving your attention to the unwanted and making the unwanted so active in your vibration that it prevents you from getting into the vortex where everything that you want is. Pretty clear, isn't it? Now, many of you quibble a bit and say, well, if it's just the same to you, Abraham, when you give it to me, I would just as soon it were in my bank account now. When you give it to me, put him in my bed. When you give it to me, give it to me. And we say, if you will stay with us here today, you will come to understand how when you ask and life causes you to do it all day, every day, it is given. It is given in the purest, fullest means possible. It is given to you vibrationally. And all things that ever become manifest are first vibrationally given. Now, what happens is when you ask, Source clearly hears what you're asking for. But Source, unlike you, often, you don't always do it, but you're doing it less and less all the time. But Source, unlike you, no longer gives attention to the reason that you are asking. In other words, it's enough when you ask Because Source understands that you are asking from the most sincere base of your being, from your own experience. When you ask, it is given. When you're confused, you ask for clarity, even if you don't say the words. When you are angry, you ask for love, even when you do not say the words. When you're sick, you ask for wellness, even though you may be saying the words. When you don't have enough money, you ask for more. In other words, you're asking all day long. And when that desire, that focused, clear asking emanates from you vibrationally, and don't worry about having to learn how to do it vibrationally. You can't stop doing it vibrationally. You are much more vibrational beings than anything else. When that vibration emanates from you, Source focuses upon this newly amended vibration, because after all, it's not the first one you ever offered. You've been offering vibrations. You've been offering them and offering them and offering them, and you have been building a vibrational escrow, so to speak. You have been making requests, and Source has been receiving each and every one of them and holding the next idea and the next idea and the next idea and the next idea and the next idea, until without you usually even knowing it, you are building a future experience. Now, how far into the future this experience is really up to you. That depends upon how long you, unlike Source, continue to beat the drum of the reason that you ask. In other words, if you don't have enough money, and that's why you're asking for more, but you are constantly aware of your lack of money and speaking about it, and therefore holding it active in your vibration incessantly, I don't have enough, 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 want more, I don't have enough, I don't have enough, I don't have enough, I don't have enough. Then without meaning to, but by your attention to where you stand, by your attention to the what is that you are living, you prevent yourself from moving easily to the what you have already asked for. And you don't do it just about money. You do it about so many things, because, bless your hearts, you are so enamored, you are so steeped, you are so completely and so beautifully, humanly, physically focused, that you believe so much in the reality that is, that you've forgotten about the reality that you are creating. Can you hear the importance of your step one part of this process? Contrast causes you to ask, and Source, the inner being that is you, the God within you, the all that isness, collects the data of the best of life. Now we want to ask you a question. When you know what you don't want, when you see someone rude, when you see a mass murder, when you see some abhorrent experience, when you see something that you really, really, really know that you don't want, when you see people suffering, when you see people encouraging suffering, when you see those things you don't want to see, whether it's humans or animals or earth, when you see something you don't want to see, do you understand that in that moment you offer an equal and a commensurate and exactly equal, proportionate request that is exactly on the other side of what you don't want? In other words, when you're really sick, you really ask for wellness. If you're sort of sick, you sort of ask for wellness. If you're sort of confused, you sort of ask for clarity. If you're really confused, you really ask for clarity. In other words, your request is always proportionate to what you are allowing yourself to live. And for that reason, in this time of greatest diversity, which is a good thing, not a bad thing, as you are mixing it up with one another, you are asking massively. And as you don't allow yourself as individuals to go in the direction of what you're asking for, it just causes you to ask harder and stronger and more often. So that the requests that this time-space reality are sending forth into the vibrational escrow of mass consciousness is bigger and faster and more than it has ever been before. This stream is moving fast, and the answering to what you are asking for is happening in greater abundance than ever before. This pool of abundance that you have requested is at its all-time high and getting greater in every day, which means your propensity for thriving is greater than it has ever been. Your propensity for suffering is greater than it has ever been also. Because it's always equal. In other words, when who you have become is more and you don't let yourself become it, you don't feel so good. Fortunately, as individuals, you don't have to wait for everybody to figure it out before you have the ease of alignment. You get to individually go with the flow of that which you have become, and when you do, you come into alignment with who you are.